Alrighty, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Wednesday, January the 14th. We had CPI in the markets yesterday. You can see decent amount of volatility right off the bat, a couple rejections off your previous day highs. Coming into this morning, we do have core PPI. So that is at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Kind of similar game plan to yesterday. We'll mark out some charts, go over some indices, some tech names, and then we will wait for 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then we'll develop our game plan from there. What's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Robert, KO, B Roots, Cody, Under One, Andreas, 50, Vikash, I Am, Wayne, Martin, Chris, Cinna, Deuce, Miss Reggie, Frank, Ryan, Robert, Rick, True, Wallace. Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, let's kind of get into it. Let's bring out the economic calendar here. Hope you guys are doing well. I see some new familiar faces, of course. So if you guys don't already know, these are the pre-market preps. Also just started the trade recaps on my second channel as well. So if you guys haven't checked that out, I know you guys are enjoying those ones. Finally confident I can move from paper trading to try a prop firm. This is the only from trading live stream I watched. Love to hear that. It's changed my life. It's becoming sustainable. Glad to hear that as well, Frank. Awesome. Let's head on to the economic calendar. First things first, as I mentioned, we do have core PPI and retail sales this morning. This is at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So similar game plan to yesterday, as I mentioned. We'll mark up some charts, kind of mark out off our key levels. We are currently dropping here in the pre-market and in the overnight session. So mark out some key levels coming into market open, and then we'll develop our game plan once 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time hits. As for some other things, we actually have the October data coming out later today as well. That's why it's fairly important, because we haven't had core CPI or core PPI with that government shutdown for a while. So it does seem like now we're finally getting that old data released. I thought they weren't going to release it, but I guess they will. And then for tomorrow, we do have unemployment claims, which is going to be at 8:30. So with that being said, now let's hop on to some of the charts that we have coming into today. All right, let's first start off on the ES. So the ES here, let's go into the hourly chart. As you can see, yesterday, the key levels that we had marked out was our previous day highs. So we initially had that first bullish reaction with core CPI pushing towards the upside. Ultimately, we actually ended up rejecting right off that previous day highs key level. And if we had that rejection, then potentially we could see that kind of reversal in the markets, which we actually ultimately ended up getting on the ES and the NQ. So as you can see right here, nice initial reaction right off the bat up and towards our previous day highs. And you can see we never were able to close back above our previous day highs, and essentially that previous all-time highs for a continuation. And we ultimately had that rejection off that previous day highs for this reversal. So if you go into the lower time frames, you can see here on ES, if you just draw it this straight level, you can see price, it was never able to close above it on the higher time frames. And on the lower time frames, you can see got underneath, ended up rejecting off this level, and we end up having this reversal back towards the downside. So for the ES coming into today, you can see now we're actually back at your Monday's lows of this week. So for the ES, if you look at this on the higher time frames, we are very much still intact. But what we wanted to see was continuation above our previous day highs for this push higher. But we ultimately had that rejection, as I mentioned, and now we're continuing back towards the downside. So for the ES coming into market open, what are some of the key levels that I have marked out? Let's actually go into the 15-minute time frame. Let's turn back on the levels. What I'm going to have marked out coming to today is going to be this previous day's low. So for the ES coming into market open, the previous day lows here is going to be key, which is your 6974. If we do want to see any sort of upside here in the markets, it needs to reclaim back above our 6974. If we reject off this level, then we can see a little bit more of a push towards the downside, back down and towards the Friday's lows of last week. So this is going to be the key level coming to today, at least right off the bat. As I mentioned, we'll wait for 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is going to be in about 20 minutes. We'll see the initial reaction here for CPI once again. I do expect a decent amount of volatility with this core PPI news release. So we'll wait for that. But key levels, as I mentioned, is going to be that previous day lows. Reclaim, we can see a pushback towards the upside. Break and hold underneath, we can see a pushback down in towards that pre-market lows. As for the SPY chart, fairly similar game plan, just the levels are a little bit different here on the SPY, at least for the higher time frame, similar thesis. You can see yesterday we ended up gravitating up in towards that high that we created here on Monday. Couple upper rejections here, was not able to close above our all-time highs. And now you can see we're kind of back in between the range that we've created in the past couple of sessions. So for SPY, what we have marked out was that 696. Unfortunately, we're not able to close above this level for longs. And as you can see, pretty big rejections off the highs with core CPI here as well. And we end up having this reversal. And now you can see we're back down in towards the low of the range that we created, which is this 690.50, which happens to be our Friday's lows, which also happens to be our Monday's lows here as well. So coming to market open here for the SPY, I now have the levels turned back on. What we're going to have marked out, we're going to have your 692, where you can see we have multiple touches. We also have that previous day lows here as well. This is your Monday's lows, which is your 690.50. So coming into market open today, what I'd like to see for SPY, if you do want to see any sort of upside, either the bounce off your pre-market lows for this potential reversal back towards the upside. Another possible scenario is going to be that reclaim back above our 692 for continuation higher here as well. So there's really two scenarios for a reclaim, a push back towards the highs. If we break back underneath your 690.50, then we're going to be looking for this continued push back down in towards that 689.50. So for the SPY, two scenarios for the long side. For the short side, I kind of like it underneath that 690.50, which is your pre-market lows. Potential kind of pop and fade is also in play here as well. So that is something to keep in mind. Now I'm a little bit open to playing both sides in the markets. SPY and Qs with that rejection off our previous day highs yesterday. QQQ, I really wanted to see that break above that 628 on the higher time frames, but another kind of rejection. We'll talk about the we'll talk about the NQ here now. Let's go into the higher time frames. So for the NQ, as you can see, we have multiple rejections essentially off of this higher time frame key level. As for the QQQ, another rejection once again off our 628. So we've been waiting for the 628 to break here for that push back up and towards our all-time highs, but another rejection here once again. You can see how many touches we've had off this level. So for the NQ, let's go back onto this chart. You can see we're still building up these higher lows. We're getting tighter and tighter here for the NQ. So we're waiting for that break towards the upside, or if we break below this trend line, we can see a little bit of a mean reversion. So for the NQ, let's go back onto the lower time frames here. As you can see, yesterday we tried breaking above our high that we created here on Monday. Couple rejections here from CPI. Markets pushed higher, tried breaking above it once again, but was unable to. And now you can see we're underneath our previous day lows. So for the NQ coming into market open, at least for today, key level that we have here is going to be that previous day low, 25,800. If you want to see a push towards the upside, the reclaim is in play for a push back towards the highs. If we reject off this area, then we can see a push back down in towards that previous day lows and below. So this is the key level for the NQ coming to market open, that previous day lows, 25,800 here on the NQ. If you go into the QQQ chart, fairly similar thesis here for the QQQ. You can see on the higher time frames, as I mentioned, what I wanted to see was the break above our 628. You can see touch here, 4 touches back here, multiple touches for the Qs, I was waiting for that break above. Ultimately, another rejection here once again. And now we're rejecting and pushing back towards the downside. So for the QQQ coming to market open, what I have marked out is your low that we created here on Monday, and also have kind of your low from last week here as well. So for the Qs, as you can see, a couple upper rejections here off that 628.50. Now we're underneath our previous day lows. Now we're right by our 622.50 here as well. If you want to mark out your previous day lows, you can. Levels that we can just mark out is going to be that 624. So for the Qs, there's kind of two scenarios coming into today. Key levels that we have marked out is 624 previous day lows, along with that 622.50. If we do want to see upside, we need to see that bounce off your pre-market lows for this continuation higher. Another possible scenario, reclaim back above our previous day lows, 624 for this pushback towards the highs. So these are the two long scenarios towards the upside. Both reclaims back above your pre-market lows or your previous day lows. As for some downside here, what we can be looking for is the pop and fade off that 624 for that continuation towards the downside, or now it's going to be underneath that 622.50, which is essentially your low that we created here on Monday. So this is what we have for the QQQ coming into today. As I mentioned, previous day lows is going to be key here on both the SPY and the QQQ. So with that being said, we do have about 14 more minutes until red folder news. I'm going to go over the SMH and the IWM here, but if you guys do have any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat. I'm going to go over the Mag 7 in a bit as well. Yeah, good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. If you guys are enjoying these, of course, appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that, of course, is in the description below. Can you take a look at the Dow Jones? Yeah, I'll take a look at the Dow as well. Usually I don't go over the Dow as much, but it seems like quite a few guys trade the futures on that. Can you make a video about relative strength and what exactly you look for? I have a couple videos on relative strength on my YouTube channel. So if you check that out, I think it's just called how to gauge relative strength and weakness. I have a pretty good video on my YouTube channel. But what we look for is leading names compared to the corresponding indice. So if we're looking at semiconductors, we're going to see what the leader is. What the leader is on the semiconductors hasn't really been NVIDIA and AMD the past I'd say the past 20 to 40 days. What has been leading the indices towards, specifically the SMH towards upside, MU, TSM, and even Intel has been moving up nicely. Haven't heard back from Hayden. No access. Yes. It's in the description. I mentioned the other day, check the description below. You can email me. It should be right in the description below on it might be here on my pre-market prep, but it should be on my YouTube channel. Okay, let me head on to SMH. So SMH, we end up having this nice break and retest above our 391, which is key. So this is our higher time frame key level. You can see some of the semis are still holding up fairly nicely compared to the overall markets. You can see nice break above, retest above our 391, and we had a nice push towards the upside here on the semiconductor ETF, which is the SMH. AMD was up 6% yesterday. A couple of the semis were up yesterday as well. And then, of course, Intel, another solid day on Intel, up about 7%. Intel is getting closer to one of my main targets, which is 50. It is coming up and towards that key level. As for SMH now, still bullish here on the higher time frames above our 389. What I like to see coming into today is, that 389. So if you do want to see some upside, we personally like to see the bounce on SMH here, or now the reclaim back above our previous day lows for any sort of continuation back towards upside. We'll see what shapes up here with core PPI, but these are the key levels that we have marked out. As for the IWM, another one, nice push towards the upside with core CPI, but ultimately now this one's just kind of consolidating here. Hasn't really done too much yesterday. But the key levels that we're going to have marked out today still going to be that 261.50. If we do want to see any sort of push towards upside, reclaim back above our 261.50 is going to be key, or now the bounce off that previous day lows for that continuation back towards the upside. So this is what we have here for the IWM. As for the Dow, I guess we can mark it out on the futures contracts. We can go into the YM. This one, very much bullish on the Dow chart. Key levels that we could have marked out is this previous old pivot point, which is a higher time frame key level. And you can see nice break above our all-time highs, a couple of retests essentially off our previous down close candles. And now what we like to see is the bounce for this continuation back towards the upside. So this is what we have for the Dow Jones. Higher time frame key level is here. You can see multiple reactions and trading opportunities off this level. Now what you like to see is the bounce once again for a pushback towards the upside. It actually did recently kind of reject our all-time highs with core CPI yesterday here. So rejection and pushback down towards the bottom of the range. So now you like to see if the buyers are going to step in off your 49,200. Okay. Now let's go on to some of the tech names that we have today. Let's first go on to Tesla. So for Tesla, let's go on to the 1 hour chart. So as you can see here for Tesla, higher time frame, still kind of showing a little bit more weakness. We end up having a nice bounce on Monday. As for yesterday, we have an inside bar day. So as you can see right here for Tesla, we're in between its previous range that we created here on Monday. We have our high, we have our low marked out. And now coming to market open, other levels that we can have marked out here as well can be our previous day lows. In this case, it is at 444. So a couple key levels here for Tesla. We have our Monday's lows, our previous day lows, and then we have this key level, which is our Friday's highs from last week. So if we'd like to see some downside on Tesla, if you'd like to see some upside, bounce off our previous day lows along with that pre-market lows for that continuation higher, or now it's going to be that reclaim back above our 449 for this pushback towards the upside. So two scenarios here on Tesla coming into market open. For something like Tesla, I'm open to playing both sides. Don't really have a bias on this one just because the higher time frame, in my opinion, is neutral. If you want to see some downside underneath your previous day low for continuation lower. Most of the tech names, you should be open to playing both sides just because the QQQ still has not broken out of this consolidation period that we've had. So until we can finally break outside or break above our 428, you want to be a little bit more cautious. This is kind of the key level we've been waiting to break for a while, and currently we've had another rejection. So for the QQQ in specific, it's still in this consolidation period that we've had. So until we can finally break above that 628, you want to be a little bit more cautious. As for a few other tickers that we'll have, let's go on to some of the semiconductors. As for NVIDIA, we had a couple of news. I think we had some news midday, ultimately rejected. And we're right back at a key level here on NVIDIA. So this is the original consolidation period that we had between that 186.50 along with that 192. And now the new consolidation period that we have here is at 186.50 along with our 184. So as you can see here on the 15-minute time frame, these levels have been used fairly nicely. A couple rejections off this key level, a couple bounces off the lows. For NVIDIA coming to market open here today, if you want to see some upside, bounce off our 184 for a mean reversion, or now it's going to be above our 186.50. If you want to see some downside, pop and fade off that 186.50 or now underneath your previous day lows, 184 for this continuation back towards the downside. So a couple scenarios here on NVIDIA. This one has been inside of a range, so we want to be a little bit more cautious. There hasn't been too much continuation on this ticker compared to something like AMD. AMD, super solid break towards the upside yesterday. We had some news in the overnight session. AMD also had news, it was with Intel. So you can see both of these benefited fairly nicely towards the upside. For AMD, the key level that we had marked out yesterday was that 212. And then we had a higher time frame key level, which is this 223. Let me just mark this out. So now for AMD, key levels that we have marked out, 223 here. Other levels is that 212. Now what we can also mark out here as well, since these levels are pretty big, we can mark out your previous day lows, which is your 215. So we can kind of mark out our pre-market highs along with our previous day lows, and we can drag this over. So for AMD coming into market open here today, previous day lows, we have our previous day highs. You can see we're kind of opening up in between the middle of the range here. So for long positions, we either like to see the bounce off 215. Another possible scenario, wait for that opening range candle to form for that continuation higher, or now above our previous day highs for a push towards the upside. AMD, I'm going to keep an eye out on this one just because we had some bullish news yesterday, higher time frame, bouncing off key levels of support. We'll keep an eye on this one to see if it does want to have some continuation towards the upside. So this is what we have for AMD. I'm only interested in AMD shorts underneath our previous day lows, 215. So until we can break underneath 215, be a little bit more cautious. As for Apple, this one still consolidating. Not really too much to talk about on this one. Google, nice bounce right off that previous day high. So Google was one of our main watches yesterday. What we had here was our previous all-time highs. You can draw this out. 334 previous all-time highs. Nice break and retest right off the bat for this continuation higher. This is what I ended up taking yesterday towards the upside. Key level, as you can see, nice previous day high break and retest. Buyers stepped in immediately, and then we also had another retest off our pre-market highs. As for Google here, coming to market open today, keep an eye out on that previous day lows. Still fairly bullish here on Google. What we can be looking for, bounce off that 334 for this push back up and towards your 341 here and above. Another possible scenario above our 338 for this continuation higher. So a couple scenarios for Google, still fairly bullish on this one. So we'll keep an eye out on Google for continued upside. Meta actually had a break of this consolidation period here yesterday with some news as well. So for Meta, showing a little bit more weakness compared to the overall markets, but you can see finally breaking outside of this consolidation. Now what you like to see if we can have some continuation towards the downside here on Meta. So key levels that you're going to have marked out, 624. And you can also mark out that pre-market highs, 630. So if you do want to see downside on Meta today, underneath that previous day low, so you have a couple scenarios, pop and fade off of your previous day close, or now underneath that previous day lows for continuation lower. So keep that in mind for Meta. As for Amazon, a little bit of rejections, pushing towards the downside. Microsoft showing a little bit of weakness, and then Netflix, this one, small little bounce here in the after hours. So let's go on to a few other names. We do have about 3 more minutes, or about 2 more minutes until core PPI here. So I guess I'll go on to a couple charts before core PPI. Okay, let me grab some water here. We have core PPI in about 2 minutes. All right, we have core PPI in about 2 minutes here. So if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat. Seems like we're getting a little bit of bounce here. We'll see what happens with core PPI. Most likely, we're going to pop back up and towards our previous day lows. As always, if you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that, of course, is in the description below here as well. Let me just go over gold and silver really quickly. As for gold, nice kind of break and retest right off our key levels that we talked about here, previous all-time high. So if you're trading gold, these levels are holding fairly nicely, and we're pushing back up and towards our all-time highs. If you're trading silver, super solid retest right off our key levels here. This was that previous retest we talked about in a trending market, super solid buyers right off that 86,000. So if you're trading silver, this has been trending fairly nicely. And you can see every single down close candle has been holding up nicely for a continuation higher. Let me answer some questions as well as we wait for this core PPI. Do you connect your broker to TradingView? No, I do not. What indicators do you use? There's a few indicators. I don't rely on indicators, but I have VWAP, 9 EMA. I also have another indicator that draws out key levels as well. If you're trading futures, what is the correlation pair? Just like how you use QQQ in the stocks. If you're trading futures, then you're going to compare the ES to the NQ. You're going to look for divergence, other things as well. It's called, yeah, you can be looking for relative strength and weakness, but primarily you're looking for divergence. What pairs do you trade in options? I usually trade the Meg 7 names or anything with a higher time frame thesis. Is there a downside scenario? Yeah, there's a couple downside scenarios. What would be a good starting capital for trading? I use 212 CFD accounts. Whatever you can afford to lose. There's prop firms nowadays. There's other things here as well. So the numbers for core PPI just came out. Let's see if there's initial reaction here in the markets. Okay, let's head on to the numbers. So core PPI numbers just came out. Actual was 0%, forecasted 0.2. As for core retail sales, 0.5%, forecasted 0.4. PPI month over month came in as expected, and then retail sales month over month a little bit higher than expected, 0.6 compared to 0.5%. It doesn't seem like it's affecting the market as much. We'll see if there's any sort of initial reaction. So for the SPY and Qs, we're kind of just coming right back up and towards that previous day lows. So for the ES, similar thing, previous day lows, and then the NQ previous day lows here as well. So coming into today, let's kind of go over the game plan and what we're looking for coming to market open. So for the SPY and Qs, we're right at your previous day lows. Specifically for the Qs, the key level here is going to be that 624 coming into market open. That game plan is still going to be intact. So if you do want to see some upside, the reclaim back above our previous day lows here is going to be key. Ultimately, we are having that first initial reaction off that previous day lows. So if you want to see some downside, either that retest off 624, or now it's going to be underneath that 622.50 for that continuation towards the downside. For the SPY, similar kind of thesis, you have your previous day lows marked out. If you want to see some upside, reclaim back above previous day lows is going to be key. If not, potential pop and fade is in play, or now underneath that 690.50. So this is what we have for the SPY and Qs coming to market open. I am neutral. I'm still fairly bullish on the higher time frames. I'm a little bit more neutral coming into market open. But as for some of the top watches coming into today, so top watches coming to today, I'm still going to keep an eye out on Google just because it's above your previous all-time highs. Still holding up compared to most tickers. Keep an eye out on your 334. As for AMD, keep an eye out on your 216 potential kind of bounce for a pushback towards the upside. I do like AMD just based off continuation yesterday. As for NVIDIA, it's in a range, so I'm a little bit more open to playing the bounce or the rejection on NVIDIA. Unless we can break underneath 184, then I'm going to lean a little bit more towards the downside. And then for Tesla, what we have here is your previous day lows, open and playing a potential bounce on Tesla for a pushback up and towards your 449, or even the break underneath previous day lows for this continuation lower. So this is what we have. There's really not too much actually coming into market open. I am going to go on to some of these high beta names here in a second. But coming into market open today, we're going to be a little bit more cautious just because SPY and Qs rejected off key levels yesterday. And now we're back in between kind of this consolidation specifically for the QQQs. So going to be a little bit more open to playing both sides on a few of these tickers. Now let's take a look at Intel that's still holding up compared to the overall markets. Yeah, we also have some more news as well. So we had the tariff decision that got delayed. That was supposed to be released last Friday, but it got delayed. I think it's supposed to be today. Someone mentioned in the chat at 10 a.m. So it seems like we're getting that tariff decision at 10 a.m. as well. So most likely, we're going to be patient, at least right off the bat. We're going to see if that if that decision gets released for the court hearing, since it was supposed to be last Friday. So we'll most likely just wait for 10 a.m. Regardless, coming into market open. All right. Now let's go on to some of the high beta names. Do you clear your drawings weekly? Yes, I clear my drawings and I draw them weekly. As for each day, I kind of refine some of my drawings or maybe clear some things up. But at least if I was to do my full pre-market game plan or my full weekly outlook, then I clear every single drawing that I have. 928, 921 EMAs plus the VWAP. Yes, I used to use that a little bit more. I just kind of have it plastered on my chart. I sometimes will use the 9 EMA just as a confluence. But let me go into a few tickers here. So Palantir consolidation, not too much to talk about in between this 182 along with this 175. So we're going to be waiting for the break above these levels or the reaction off these key levels. As for MU, a little bit of rejection off your previous day highs. You can see higher time frames, pretty big upper wick here as well. Was not able to close above that 346, push back towards the downside. MU, I'm still bullish here on the higher time frames. As you can see, still building up these higher lows. But for MU, basically this is the exact higher low point I'd like to see hold, which is that 335. If it breaks underneath, we can see a push down in towards that 324. The hold above our 335, we can see this push back higher. So for MU, most likely not going to be interested in trading this one today for some upside, but we can keep an eye out on that 335. TSM, nice push towards the upside here on Monday. Hit our all-time highs, a little bit of rejection. Now we're having a little bit of a pullback. Intel is one of the only names that's still holding up. Nice retest right off the key levels we talked about, which happened to be that 46, our Friday's highs of last week. This one had news. So this one, higher time frame holding up, plus news, very bullish. We've been talking about Intel for a while now. Our main targets here on Intel is 50, which is our 2024 highs. That is going to be our main target moving forward. At least for today, the key levels that we have marked out is our previous day highs. Sorry about that. Key levels for Intel is going to be our 84 previous day highs. If we do want to see continuation, we need to see the hold of our 84.20 for this pushback towards the upside. So this is what we have for Intel coming into market open. Bless you, appreciate that. Let's see what happens if candles never break high or low from the last day. Then we're most likely going to be in between its previous day's range, and you want to be a little bit more cautious. Do you use price action as a trigger if the confluences are in order? Correct. So I'll look at the price action around key levels. You can wait for the buyers to step in. There's a few different entry models that we'll look for, but primarily we'll wait for the buyers to step in, which is one of my favorite ones. I'll go over BABA here. BABA, higher time frames, nice kind of bounce lately on BABA. Showing some nice strength. I think China is kind of heating up here as well, the kind of China theme. So for BABA, at least key levels that you're going to have marked out is your previous day highs. I have a couple old levels from previous, but for BABA, key levels now, previous day highs that you want to have marked out. And you can also mark out your high that we created here on Monday, which is also a key level here. So for BABA, you like to see if any buyers step in here off 170. If not, potential kind of mean reversion here. Yeah, Hood's still holding up. SoFi slowly starting to curl back. A couple of these names starting to curl here. Even Oracle, keep an eye on Oracle. Kind of the hold above our 200 could be in play here as well. You can see previous resistance turning into support, potential kind of bounce off Oracle on 200, higher time frame thesis. So a couple of names are shaping up here. With the markets dropping, we just want to be a little bit cautious today because we do have that court hearing at 10 a.m. as well. So we'll wait for that first kind of 15 to 30 minutes to develop. And then we'll wait for any sort of names that do have relative strength or relative weakness. As I mentioned, my favorite watch still is going to be Google, so I'm going to keep an eye out on this one. I'm interested in playing both sides here on Tesla, AMD, and NVIDIA. The rest of the names, Intel is really the only one that's still holding up, so we'll keep an eye out on Intel for a potential push up in towards 49 and potentially 50 today. So we'll still keep an eye out on Intel. One of my favorite watches. We kind of been talking about this one for the past couple of weeks. So this is what I have coming into market open. That's about it for today. So if you guys did enjoy that, appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, That, of course, is in the description below. Yeah, that's going to be it for me today. We'll see what shapes up here coming into 10 o'clock with the tariff decision. Yeah, besides that, I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Peace.